Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Poison Ducky, and we're back at it again with the forces of the end times versus the forces of Nagash. Or in other words, Chaos versus Vampire accounts. Now, I'm going to bring a frontal force of Chaos Warriors with great weapons. Now, I anticipated that my opponent will bring the Graveguard with great weapons, and essentially Chaos Warriors with great weapons are just a really good matchup overall. Let's go in the stat comparison. 36, 32, 38 versus the 24, 26, 40. Actually, they have a little bit more weapon damage, and only a 13 charge bonus versus my 26. That will do. So we have a pretty decent front line here. We do have a unit of aspiring champions. They do have obviously Inspire. They make it so that my units don't run just that much faster. Against the Vampire counts, you need the leadership, because Vampire counts are they're just a cheap way to increase the leadership on a flank that Archaon is not on, which I really like in this matchup. Plus, they have magic damage, and magic damage is always great. Even though with such few models, I really like them in this matchup. Specifically, pretty much only this one, and maybe the Undead Pirates. Zombie Pirates, probably not needed. Maybe Tomb Kings. Or possibly, yeah, Tomb Kings, I would say. And I'm going to have the Mirror Guard because they're just one of the best units pound for pound in terms of infantry in the game. They can churn through skeletons, zombies, anything. They are fantastic, and they're fast. And I'll have just 2 units of normal Marauders in the back line, just so to plug in any holes that seems, it's overrun, maybe stop some zombie summons. It's not like I have a backline to protect or anything, but they'll do well. And, of course, my Lord is going to be Archaon, the always chosen, because obviously every single matchup you choose this guy, is it not? Do you not choose him in every single matchup? It's not Kolek, right? Obviously, Kolek's not the most chosen, because he's the ever-chosen. Of course, with the Lore of Fire, very effective against vampires, but you guys know that. And the Chaos Giant. There's not many matchups where you can actually bring a Giant, because let's be honest, Giants are just not good. And this is very, very special. The Chaos versus Vampire is like the very few times I do get to bring a Giant, so I just, like, man, I giddy in happiness as like, yay, I can finally bring a Giant, because let's be honest, they're kind of terrible against projectiles. And I'm going to have a skirmishing core. If I'm going to take advantage of the low, actually lack of skirmishing that the Vampire counts have, I'm going to have 3 units of Marauders, actually 2 units of Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes, and 2 units of just normal Marauder Horsemen. Not the expensive Horse Masters, per se, but they will get the job done, throw in the projectiles, and get the harassing going. My opponent, on the other hand, let's get paused because this action is starting fast and it's starting heavy. He's going to have the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. Fantastic choice overall. Really good for unit sniping. If I went Kolek, that would be pretty dangerous. And he has like a lot of spells too. Did he bring all the spells? That's a interesting loadout, to be sure. Bringing all the spells on a dragon, so that's going to be quite a force to deal with. And he's going to have a front line of mix between Graveguard with great weapons, which I anticipated, and some Skeleton Spearmen. Now, Skeleton Spearmen, they're not going to last very long, especially against Chaos, but he's bringing the anti-large big boy, which is the Terrorgeist. Very powerful unit. It's quite hard to deal with. He has the Death Shriek, which is like a breath attack, except the Terrorgeist breath attack is much more centered against single unit targets, and this is like, Chaos is really known for their single unit monsters. I did bring a Giant after all, so that's really dangerous for the Giant. He did bring some Blood Knights along with Black Knights on the flank, and just 1 more unit of Black Knights, so only 1 Blood Knight. So, at least that's 1 less Blood Knight to deal with. 2 Blood Knights is quite hard. 1, it's palpable, but the Terrorgeist is going to replace the second pressure of the Blood Knight. But let's see how I deal with it. Now, I'm just going to do some light skirmishing here. It's the normal bread and butter Chaos skirmish. I think these units are they're actually not underrated or overrated. They're just correctly rated. Only really useful in very few matchups. So when they do, they really shine. Now I'm wasting a little bit of ammo. I really should not be firing into these Skeleton Spearmen. I should be firing into Black Knights or Blood Knights, and especially the Terrorgeist or the Dragon, as they don't have shields. But the frontline engagement is going to be underway. It's going to be a clash of skeletons versus Chaos Warriors. Yeah, that's not going to be very good for them. The Mirror Guard are almost especially attuned to killing these Skeleton Spearmen. The only better unit would be Forsaken. And Chaos Mirror Guard, it's the difference here, Mirror Guard just don't die. I'm going to send my Giant in the front line here, and he's going to fight one-on-one against the Terrorgeist. No breath attack used my Terrorgeist, and I'm going to use Archaon. Now, Archaon has a special item here called the Kingslayer Sword. I'm going to use it just any second. There it is, the Slayer of Kings. It increases weapon damage and armor-piercing weapon damage by 60%. Now, if you look at his weapon stats, 769. Yeah, goodbye, Mr. Terrorgeist. He's already almost dead. Now, a very good rear charge by my opponent into the my Giant and Archaon, but that at least we take down the Terrorgeist. And with that, I'm going to be chasing these Blood Knights with my aspiring champions. I did say earlier that you need to have aspiring champions on a different flank with Archaon because they inspire your troops, but I needed this aspiring champions needed to be like I needed them to like hold the Blood Knights in place so I can get some pretty decent damage in there, as the Giant is not in his element. He'll deal a good amount of damage, but Blood Knights are going to be the menace of the Giant. Now, overall, remember, I did have some Chaos Marauders to close in the gaps. They'll do well with spears, as like predicted, and my skirmishing crew are still going to be working, slowly but surely, working on the Dragon Vampire Lord. Frontline engagements, very nice overall. I have like a sort of a little Helm's Deep, as they say it, of Chaos Warriors with great weapons and just Chaos Marauders holding out against the bitter end against these weak undead troops. And the Blood Knights disengage from my Giant, which was an interesting play, and decide to rear charge my Chaos Marauders, along with an Alpha Strike from the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. I get these aspiring champions back in here, and I bring a Cascading Fire Cloak to increase their weapon damage and melee defense, so they're almost unkillable in this case, to deal as much damage as possible. Now, 7 kills, not a lot, but it's 7 kills against Blood Knights. Very valuable in this case. You want them to get as many kills. Aspiring champions, I like them. I like them a lot. Now I send my Giant over to the infantry as, like, that's what he's really meant for, and to destroy what's left of the Grave Guard with great weapons. And my opponent has crumbled relatively quickly. I'm really happy about this. If you guys don't know, the Vampire Counts is known to be a pretty hard counter to Chaos. And whenever I see Vampires, I like to go Chaos just to practice the matchup. And guys, I'm not going to toot my own horn. My opponent here is obviously a little bit on the low end of skill, per se. He brought all the spells on the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. He seems pretty new. The Blood Knights are a great play. He did get rear charges. He understands the fundamentals, but he's missing out on a lot of like money efficiency, and that's going to be the game with everyone disintegrating. And see, it's not even a Pyrrhic victory, it's a close victory, which is pretty rare in online battles these days. And let's see how our units... That was a pretty quick replay, but, you know, entertaining nonetheless. And I'm getting... A lot of the times I get opponents that have just a random combination of numbers. I wonder if it's the same as another. See, it's I think the main downfall of my opponent here is definitely the gold efficiency. It's almost never worth it to give this many chevrons to Skeleton Spearmen, because even normal Chaos Marauders, which cost me like, what, 325 or 350? Which is nothing, can beat chevroned up Skeleton Spearmen. It's just not worth it. Now, the Grave Guard, great choice here, obviously, but I was expecting it, so I think you should bring Grave Guard even though the Chaos player is going to be expecting it, because otherwise your infantry actually just won't deal any damage. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation for the infantry choice, but it's not the infantry that you need to watch out for when it comes to Vampire Counts. The Terrorgeist was actually a pretty great choice. If I went Kolek and if he squatted up, if he gets the Dragon along with the Terrorgeist and the Blood Knights, and you just Alpha Strike Archaon, you Alpha Strike the Chaos Giant, that could have been amazing. But unfortunately, he spends too much time chasing around my Marauder Horsemen. Marauder Horsemen, they did get a lot of damage in onto the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord, but it's up to him to realize that you're spending too much time chasing around horses you'll never catch and actually kill the high-value targets in my army. Now, how can we change this Vampire versus Chaos matchup? See, remember, Vampires are generally believed to be heavily favored. Now, the Blood Vampire Lord or the Red Duke, I like the Red Duke personally, because he's like a named lord. And he's kind of a duelist, so he's really, really good against like any sort of what's it called? A duel against any lord. Now, put him on a zombie dragon. That's completely fine. Control the skies. Obviously, you don't need Wind of Death. Curse of Years could be useful, but I'm not going to take it. You just need Raise Dead, Danse Macabre, Invocation of Heck. Now, in the previous video, as my opponent was Vampire as well, I believe, I did go around the El Sif buff, reducing speed, physical resistance, and melee defense. It's a Hunter of Champions, very powerful for your goon squad. Now let's go a frontline for Chaos. Now, obviously, you need Graveguard. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think 4 should be good here. Yeah, 4 is definitely the number that is required. I don't think the Sternsmen are needed. Sternsmen are anti-infantry and they regenerate, but they don't have the armor-piercing values needed for the Chaos matchup, especially in this kind of like, not needed really at all. And Cairn Wraiths, like, Cairn Wraiths are just rarely the best choice in almost any situation, but if you do, I think in the Chaos matchup, Cairn Wraiths is actually not bad for once. They're actually okay, so if you want to bring Cairn Wraiths, this would be the matchup to do so, as their armor-piercing, ethereal, and here's the big oof for Chaos. Causes terror. Now, I always bring Archaon in the matchup against Vampire Countess. Why is that? Because Archaon has a nifty little item that I always use called Crown of Domination. Increases in leadership and immune to psychology, because Chaos Warriors, for some goddamn reason, even chosen themselves, are not immune to psychology, even though they're chosen of the gods, right? It doesn't make too much sense, but hey, balance is balance. So terror is a very, very powerful component of dealing with Chaos, especially the infantry. As long as you're away from Archaon, and if they bring Archaon in the first place, terror is a force to deal with. Now, Cairn Wraiths, actually useful in this kind of matchup. These would be really good to cycle charge into the back lines of Chaos Warriors, because you know for a fact that the Chaos Warriors with great weapons will churn through Graveguard like butter. How are we going to deal with this? Well, I'm going to bring 2 units of Direwolves here, because the Marauder Horseman skirmish power is a big threat, and you need to have some answers. Now, 2 units of Direwolves will probably eventually die. Like, they'll die to the Marauder Horseman, you'll lose the value on them, but the main component here is that they're going to distract them while they're not firing at your zombie dragon. So we have a pretty good core here, and I like to go with the Mortis engine, personally, because it's ethereal. It's pretty nice. It has the Mortis engine effect, which causes constant damage around it and regenerates. So it's going to be really nice in that kind of matchup where Chaos Warriors, Chosen, most of the Chaos roster are just really heavily armored tanks that need to be whittled down. That's how you kill Chaos. That's how you beat them. You whittle them down little by little, and that's what the Mortis engine does. Mortis engine just slowly but surely whittles down the opponent's army until there's nothing left. Now, what do we have left? Do we want a Terrorgeist in this army? We do have a zombie dragon. I don't think we need that much more air power. And we could go with the Vargulf here, but Kolek and his... I think Kolek would be quite too powerful in this kind of matchup. I think we can round out this army with a... Terrorgeist? I would go with the Terrorgeist here. Take that one Cairn Wraith, bring in the Terrorgeist, and with 500... So we've got backflank pressure with Terror. We've got Terror here. We've got Terror here, and we've got Terror here. And this is cheap Terror. Like, 850 is like the cheapest Terror you can probably bring, and they'll last a while. So what do we need left? And that's some chaff. Vampires need it. Chaff is very useful to tithe. Bring them. Do we need skeleton warriors in this case? I really don't think so. And I would just bring 3 extra units of zombies, a little bit of chaff, make them tired, bring in the Graveguard, cycle charge with, and push through with the Mortis engine. And why I bring the Terrorgeist and not the Vargulf for anything is because your opponent is going to want to target the Mortis engine. If he brings Kolek, which is a choice that they can choose. Brings Kolak, he brings a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth. He's going to charge at your Mortis Engine, try to take it out as fast and as effectively as possible, which it's good on him. The Chaos player should be pushing on the Mortis Engine because it accrues too much value for just existing near enemy units. That's why you bring the Terrorgeist, high mobility, anti-large armor piercing. Go for alpha strikes. Stick these two units together. Make sure you can take out their Koleks, take out their Dragon Ogres, hit them in the back. Maybe you use the Direwolves to keep them off, and the front line should it should last a long time before the front line is churned through. So overall, I really like this build. We have a little bit of gold left, 90. Anything for an item? Potion of Strength on. Let's see, that's actually could be pretty useful in this matchup, especially for that one alpha strike that's needed, plus 40 armor piercing and weapon damage. Yeah, that one little alpha strike using that potion could make the difference between a win and a loss. Give a little bit of leadership to the zombies. They won't last long anyway. And I think that's a decent build for the Chaos matchup. It's going to be tough. If they bring Giants, Terrorgeist, Zombie Dragon, I think they'll do really well. The Mortis Engine just deals with all the infantry of Chaos. Any large units are going to have a tough time. I think this is pretty good. Now, there may be issues if chariots are brought into play here, like Chaos Chariots or Gore Beast Chariots. That could be a really decent counter to this build, I actually think so. I should try that out myself, actually. I'll think about that one. But overall, I think this is a pretty solid build. Well, guys, if you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe if you want more. Please subscribe, guys. I'm at 38. I want to reach 50 one day. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you later.